Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast.
Join us as we explore today's top news headlines today, June 5, drawing from the sources you've shared with us.
We'll walk you through the key events and details, focusing on what the sources tell us is happening around the world.
We have a collection of reports here covering diverse events, from security situations and legal challenges to international incidents and human rights concerns.
Let's get right into it, staying concise and focused on the facts from the material.
Okay, first up, these sources bring us to Nigeria, specifically Obraka in Delta State. There's a really concerning security situation unfolding.
That's right. What's immediately striking is the impact. Delta State University, DELSU, has suspended academic activities as of today, June 5th. That's because of ongoing insecurity.
Yeah, and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Samuel Asagba, actually put out a statement, told students to stay indoors today for their safety.
It sounds pretty serious. What actually triggered this?
Well, the sources point to deadly clashes right there in Obraka town. This happened on Wednesday.
Clashes involving who?
It seems it was near the railway station. Security operatives clashed with suspected kidnappers. The reports say 4 suspects ended up dead.
And here's where it takes a really worrying turn, isn't it? The sources indicate this incident, it appears to have sparked reprisal attacks.
Yes, specifically targeting Hausa residents. There are real fears this could escalate into ethnic conflict.
The background sounds grim, too. Accounts from residents quoted in the sources mention kidnapping has been widespread there this year.
Exactly. Local hunters, railway workers, police, they reportedly went out trying to rescue victims, and they ran into armed individuals, described as herdsmen or kidnappers.
Armed.
Yeah, firearms, ransom money, the sources say. That's where security forces killed some of the suspects.
And then, chillingly, the sources mentioned that later on Wednesday, some northerners reportedly went into the bush.
And they came across people on a farm and, killed 2 men. Police later took the bodies.
There seem to be other accounts circulating, too.
Yes, the sources mention another perspective that some kidnapped victims were caught and killed and identified as Hausa persons. Also, separate reports of 2 policemen attacked and killed by kidnappers. It's confusing, lots of violence.
The immediate aftermath sounds incredibly tense. Obraka indigenes are reportedly attacking Hausa persons on site, and threats to burn down the Hausa quarters.
Yes, the material describes chaotic scenes, armed groups. It sounds extremely volatile.
And there's a link to student action.
It appears so. A student source mentioned a recent protest they held against the rise in abductions.
Okay.
This source suggests their protest led to the police action where the kidnappers were killed. And that, in turn, apparently led to a violent reaction from local houses who reportedly came out with knives and cutlasses.
That same student source issued a warning too, right? For anyone in Africa.
Yes, advising anyone schooling or with relatives there to stay safe really underscores the immediate danger.
And the state government is responding.
Absolutely. The Delta State Governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori, convened an emergency security meeting for today, Thursday. This was scheduled even before the university's statement, which shows how seriously they are taking it.
So a local crisis, quickly impacting education, potentially igniting ethnic tensions, needing top-level intervention. A stark picture.
Indeed.
Okay, moving from that challenging situation, let's stay in Nigeria but shift gears. There's a big move by the Nigerian Customs Service.
Right, this is a major crackdown. The Nigerian Customs Service, NCS, has reportedly grounded at least 60 private jets.
60? Why?
The reason given is unpaid import duties. This is happening at major airports across Nigeria.
And it involves luxury aircraft, hangars sealed in Lagos and Abuja.
Sounds forceful.
It does. The sources explained it follows a verification exercise. They started to find defaulters. This was planned last year, got delayed a bit. Enforcement apparently began quietly on Monday, June 2nd.
And who's being affected by this? High-profile individuals, according to the sources. We're talking bank executives, oil moguls, heads of multinational companies.
And they're pushing back.
Many are reportedly lobbying the presidency to get their planes released.
What's the official line from Customs?
The NCS spokesperson, Abdullahi Maiwada, confirmed it. He started it's purely about collecting unpaid duty. Enforcement continues until payments are regularized. He mentioned appeals were made, but many didn't comply. The goal, he said, is collecting revenue for Nigerians.
Are any owners complying now?
Well, besides the lobbying, the sources mention a major commercial bank pledged to settle its duties. An energy company is also making commitments.
Okay, so some movement there.
And here's an interesting detail from the sources. A document dated June 4th suggests some jets are being temporarily unsealed.
Oh, A reversal.
Not exactly a waiver. It's described as a way to let operators submit documentation and agree on payment plans. So it's about facilitating compliance for a select few, not letting them off.
The reports also brought in some expert views.
Yes, Frank Orure, formerly of Nigeria Airways, urged both sides towards global best practices. Pay what's due, act professionally.
And there was a security angle raised, too.
Right, by retired group captain John Ojikutu. He highlighted that many grounded jets are foreign registered. He called this a potential threat to national security.
Blaming who?
He blamed both Customs and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NACA, for allegedly allowing undocumented aircraft into the country. So it's not just revenue, it touches on oversight security.
Interesting layers there. Okay, from customs enforcement, let's look at another legal angle in Nigeria, a call for system reform.
Yes, this involves the prominent human rights advocate Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's demanding a big change to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the ACJA.
What specifically?
He wants to abolish ex parte remand orders.
Okay, let's break that down. What are ex parte remand orders?
Right. So, Section 293 of the ACJA lets magistrates issue orders to hold suspects. Initially for 14 days, but renewable. The key ex parte bit means this can happen based just on an application from, say, the police. The suspect or their lawyer might not even be there to argue against it.
Ah, I see. So the concern is potential abuse, holding people without a proper hearing.
Exactly. Falana argues this is being grossly abused, leading to unjust, long detentions, and he says it violates the constitutional right to personal liberty, Section 35 of 1 of the Constitution.
So what's his proposed solution?
He suggests amending Section 293. Instead of ex parte, it should require a motion on notice. That means the suspect has to be notified, has the right to be heard in court before being remanded.
Does he think the current laws already aim for this kind of protection?
He does. Falana believes provisions already in the ACGA and the Police Act show a policy to protect liberty, prevent unlawful actions by law enforcement.
And he puts the responsibility on the judiciary.
Precisely. He's calling on the judiciary to implement these laws effectively, to end what he calls incessant arrests and prolonged detentions.
They also mentioned inspections, right?
Yes. He stressed that regular inspections of detention facilities by judges and chief magistrates are crucial. These are already required by law, Section 34 of ACJA, Section 70 of the Police Act, but he says they are vital to uncover and stop illegal detentions.
And he made a powerful connection to recent history.
A very strong point. He argued that if the ACJA had been properly implemented since 2015, maybe the #EndSARS protests in 2020 wouldn't have happened.
Wow, that really links legal technicalities to major social appeal.
It certainly does. It frames legal reform as essential for stability and rights.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift our focus now away from Nigeria to a very disturbing report out of Libya.
Yes, this is from the UN Human Rights Office. They're raising alarms about the discovery of dozens of bodies.
Dozens where?
In a part of Tripoli, the capital, that was controlled by an armed militia, the Stabilization Support Authority, or SSA.
And the leader of this SSA group?
He, Abdelghani al-Kikli, was actually killed last month, the sources note.
The details about the bodies are horrific.
They are. Some were found charred and buried, others discovered in hospital refrigerators. This was in the area run by the SSA.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, commented.
He did. He expressed shock at what he termed gross rights violations found at SSA detention facilities.
What specific findings were reported?
Well, the UN office received information about 10 charred bodies excavated at the SSA headquarters in Abu Salim. Also, 67 bodies found in refrigerators at 2 hospitals, Abu Salim and Al-Qadra.
And even a burial site at the zoo.
Yes, reports of a burial site at the Tripoli Zoo, which was also apparently run by the SSA.
Turk's statement really captures the gravity.
It does. He's quoted saying, "Our worst-held fears are being confirmed. Dozens of bodies have been discovered, along with suspected instruments of torture and abuse, and potential evidence of extrajudicial killing."
Just awful. And the identities aren't known yet.
Not immediately clear, according to the sources, a truly grim discovery.
It really highlights the ongoing instability and lack of accountability in certain parts of Libya.
Absolutely. Significant challenges remain there.
Okay, from that difficult report, let's move to Ukraine. News of a deadly strike following a notable political interaction.
That's right. A Russian drone strike on Thursday killed at least 5 people in the city of Pryluki.
Who were the victims?
Tragically, a 1-year-old child, his mother, who was a police officer, and his grandmother were among those killed.
6 drones hitting a residential area before dawn. Devastating.
President Zelensky shared a particularly heartbreaking detail from the sources. He said one rescuer arrived at his own home to find it hit, his family killed.
Unimaginable. And the timing of this attack is noteworthy.
Yes, the sources point out it came just hours after U.S. President Trump spoke by phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
What was said in that call, according to the report?
According to President Trump, Putin stated very strongly that Russia would retaliate for Ukraine's recent drone attacks on Russian military airfields.
Beyond the deaths in Preluki, were there injuries?
Yes, 6 other people were wounded there. And the sources mentioned Preluki is far from the front line, with no known military assets, according to their information.
This was part of a larger wave of attacks.
It seems so. Zelensky reported a total of 103 drones and 1 ballistic missile targeted multiple Ukrainian regions overnight.
How did Zelensky frame this?
He called it another massive strike and yet another reason to impose the strongest possible sanctions and apply pressure collectively.
What's the broader diplomatic picture here?
Well, the sources indicate U.S.-led peace efforts are stalled. Zelensky wants more sanctions, says he's open to meeting Putin, but Putin hasn't shown readiness to compromise. Also noted, Germany's new leader was set to meet President Trump in Washington today, partly to discuss keeping U.S. support for Ukraine flowing.
Were there other attacks mentioned in the sources?
Yes. 19 people injured in Kharkiv from a drone strike, including children, a pregnant woman, a 93-year-old. And Russian glide bombs hit Kherson, injuring at least 3. It paints a picture of continued widespread attacks.
A grim reminder of the ongoing human cost. Okay, let's turn now to the U.S. events in Boulder, Colorado.
Right. The sources cover a community response there. Hundreds attended a vigil at the Jewish Community Center. Prayer, songs, emotional testimony from victims and witnesses of that recent firebombing attack.
Remind us about the attack itself.
This was on Sunday. A group was demonstrating for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. The suspect, Mohammed Sabri Soliman, is charged with a federal hate crime and state counts of attempted murder. He's held on $10 million bond, court appearance scheduled for today, Thursday.
The witness accounts sound terrifying.
Extremely. Seeing Soliman with a canister, hearing a crash, screams, seeing flames. One witness described seeing a woman engulfed in flames from head to toe helped immediately. A victim spoke off camera about it not seeming real.
And what about the suspect's alleged motive? The sources are specific here.
Yes, and we should stress, this is according to authorities and an FBI affidavit cited in the sources. They say Soliman confessed, planned to kill all demonstrators, but only threw 2 of his 18 Molotov cocktails while yelling, "Free Palestine."
And his stated reason.
The affidavit alleges he told police he wanted to kill all Zionist people and showed no remorse. Again, these are the allegations reported in the source material.
The number of injured went up too.
Yes, from 12 to 15 people, plus a dog. Victims aged 25 to 88.
Now, there's a complicated immigration aspect tied to this.
That's right. A federal judge has actually blocked the deportation of the suspect's family, his wife, and 5 children who are also Egyptian.
Why were they facing deportation?
U.S. immigration officials took them into custody, though they haven't been charged with anything related to the attack. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem stated they were being processed for removal, claiming they were in the U.S. illegally.
But the family challenged this legally.
They did. Their lawyers argued it's patently unlawful to punish individuals for the crimes of their relatives. The suspect's wife said she was shocked by his arrest, and he apparently told authorities his family didn't know his plan.
What's their actual immigration status, according to the sources?
It's complex. Soliman entered on a tourist visa in 2022, which expired. Applied for asylum, got temporary work authorization, also expired. His wife has a pending visa application, and the family are dependents on his asylum claim.
And the government's response to the challenge?
DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin called the family's claims absurd, an attempt to delay justice, and maintain the whole family was in the country illegally. So, a very contentious situation there.
Absolutely. Okay, one last quick item from the U.S., also related to immigration.
Yes, just a brief note. A deported Guatemalan man has landed back in the U.S.
Why?
Because a U.S. judge ordered the Trump administration to facilitate his return. He had previously been deported to Mexico.
So a court order leading directly to a return from deportation. Interesting.
It certainly highlights the power of the judiciary in these individual cases.
Well, we've explored quite a range of headlines today, covering security in Nigeria, human rights concerns in Libya, legal debates, international tensions involving Ukraine, and events here in the U.S.
Looking at these reports together really gives you a snapshot, doesn't it? Different situations unfolding all at once, local conflicts, international legal issues, political developments.
It really does. It makes you consider the connections, perhaps, between these themes of security, justice, human rights, playing out across the globe.
Indeed. You see the fragility of peace, the complexity of accountability, and just the profound human impact of all these events on individuals and communities trying to navigate very difficult circumstances.
And maybe it leaves you wondering how well our current systems, our legal frameworks, our international efforts are really equipped to handle these deep interconnected challenges we're seeing.
That's certainly a thought to consider.
Thank you for listening to the Today's Top News Headlines on IAMZ Radio and Podcast.